What's up, my people? So today a very interesting video on moon phases. So let's roll the intro and let's get right into this action. Okay, what's going on, guys? So this video is very important, and not everyone understands this about their natal chart. That is, what moon phase were you born under? So obviously, as we follow each lunar month, right? Each lunar cycle, the sun and the moon are in different positions compared to each other. Obviously, a full moon is when they are opposite. A new moon is when they are united together, and then all the other variations and phases, which have different meanings. So actually, being born, what phase of the moon you were born in, if you break it into 45-degree chunks, right? That says a lot. It can say a lot about you, right? So let's go ahead, and you guys know I always have to write the stuff. The time splits, and I also have something being delivered. A ticket for my team. So yeah, regardless, none of that matters. So let me pull everything out. But yeah, so just a little information, right, guys? I mean, it's the most obvious thing. When you have that new moon energy, right? It's everyone talks about the manifestation and the seeding of the new ground in preparation for germination, and right, all about new beginnings. And this is very karmic, all this too, right? And then you have you have Crescent, right? You have that initial sprout of the plant drawn out from the earth. So that initial light after darkness of the new moon. This is all very metaphoric, right? So there's almost like a strengthening process from this, right? And then there's that first quarter, and the plant has almost passed that first stage of survival, and now it's more anchored in who it is in its life, and it's able to concentrate less on survival, more on growth, right? And then there's the Gibbous phase, and this is more about the plant kind of trying to understand more of the what the kind of how you say it, the reason for its existence, like trying to understand that, right? By kind of ridding itself of everything it doesn't need. A lot about culmination, and yeah, it's getting close to that full moon, which is the completion, right? As we know, and it's when the sky is the lightest, right? Where the illumination is complete. So the work has been done, and that's when the gardener or whatever can stand back and admire the efforts, right? So then that's the first half, the first phase, which is more active, and then there's the disseminating phase, right? So there's Crescent phase, right? The first half, then there's the disseminating phase. So basically, it's about the plant giving back to the earth, right? And so the disseminating phase, right, is to give back to the earth, to nurture others, right, to kind of do its part in that way. And then with the third quarter, the harvest is over, and everything's been distributed, and the rest is decomposing. So the cycle is beginning to end. And then you have the balsamic phase, the very end. And this is where the seed is buried underground. It's clear that, everything that was isn't anymore. It's a transitional time, transitional period. and it's a very, the moon is not emitting much light. So yeah, then there's that disappearance in the darkness. So let me write this down. So yeah, so let's go ahead and let's so first of all, how do you know what moon phase you were born in? Well, you can go on Google. I'm sure there's something where you can type in like astrology, calculate my natal moon phase, or you can just look at where your sun is compared to your moon. For example, so let's say you have, if you have, let's say your sun, obviously the moon moves faster, right? So let's say your sun is in Pisces at 28 degrees and your moon is, no, it's a bad example. Well, yeah, if your moon is in, if your moon is in, I'm blanking. If your moon is in the first 45 degrees, right? So if it's like your Pisces, your sun's in Pisces, and the moon's, let's say, somewhere in Aries, right? Let's say it's even at 28 Aries, I don't know. Then you would be you wouldn't be born on the new moon conjunction, but you'd be a new mooner, right? Crescent is when you've passed that 45 degree, post 45 degrees, right? So let's make it easier. Say you're a 0 Aries sun. The crescent would start at, if your moon was mid after 15 Taurus, right? And then for first quarter, it would be after Cancer, 0 Cancer. And then for Gibbous, it would be 15 Leo. And for full moon, am I doing this right? Full moon for Aries would be Libra. But yeah, it'd be Leo and all Virgo. Yes, it'd be 0 Libra. And then, yeah, so you see how it works. So let me see where this Uber is at, because I'm going to have to... 12 minutes. Okay. So yeah, just a little explanation. Let's see. Oh, shit. Hold on, guys. Okay, so now let's get into each moon phase. So hopefully now you guys can know what you're at. So let's start with the new moon, obviously. So new moon babies are very special. From a karmic perspective, there's a lot of new beginnings. If you think of it from a psychological perspective, your solar, your masculine and your feminine, lunar archetypes or parts of your psyche are very imbalanced, right? They're very in sync. They're the same energy. So, it can definitely make things easier. Obviously, you need to know the whole chart. But, from a reincarnation karmic perspective, I don't necessarily believe, like some people will say, like you're born on a new moon. It's you're a young soul. I don't believe in that, in the sense that for me it's more about, like, it could indicate that, but it could also indicate the focus on a certain energy, right? Like, so let's say from a karmic perspective, you're actually a soul that's incarnated a lot, advanced a lot, but maybe there's one area that was, let's say it's like, I don't know, Pisces, like a sun, moon, in Pisces, right? It's like the last sign. You'd have to look at the whole chart, and still, even with that, it's hard to determine, because like on the topic of like, is it an advanced soul that chose really hard karma, or is it a new soul, just like someone who has really bad karma, right? Just someone who has really bad past life karma. That's why their chart's difficult. It's tough to tell, But anyways, so yeah, with new moon, there's a lot of, that person, even if regardless, they do have a very youthful soul energy, right? There's a lot of like kind of like pizzazz and spontaneity, and there's that quality of, like there's less fatigue, right? It's like just waking up from a long, nice nap, and they tend to have quite youthful energy. Not always the best planners, right? But I've seen a lot of super successful people, especially on social media, like YouTubers. I watch like random stuff on social media, even stuff I don't like. I'm weird like that. Like I'll watch people, creators and stuff because like my job is so intense, right? Like the astrology, people tell me everything, right? So I have to balance it out with like very stupid content sometimes. Sometimes I'll watch these people for like a little bit, or like kind of watch them, and then realize like, oh, I can't stand this person. I'll never like want to see them again. But two of those people that I guess I never really watched Logan Paul. Logan Paul's like a famous YouTuber. He's like a horrible person. And I don't say that like that often about celebrities, but he's just a really, really bad, narcissistic dude. His brother, Jake Paul, they're both, so like there's them in the US, and then there's KSI, and I can't remember his brother's name. But basically, they're from the UK, and all four of them are new moon babies. Jake is a double new moon in Capricorn, Logan new moon Aries, and then KSI Gemini, and then his brother Sag. I just found that kind of interesting because they're like four very famous people, and a lot of other examples too. But yeah, so kind of that theme with new moon people is life is this big adventure, right? There's unlimited possibilities. Just live in the moment. Very, very, yeah. So there is, so it can be very, like the argument of that new soul, right? It isn't one that I'm just going to sit here and say there's no grounds to that, right? So, yeah. So, what else can I say? Yeah, I guess like one thing I like about them sometimes is that they can be a little bit too self-involved. You could call it. So they're really here to. It's very, very, very difficult to kind of boil it down to one lesson. But from what I've seen with many of them, they obviously depending on the sign, but just that spontaneous energy can lead to some mistakes. And then, hold on, let me see. Sorry. Okay, 8 minutes. Yeah, and then like a lot of their life can be dealing with the karma, or like learning the lessons that come with the mistake. Like I hate to use Logan Paul as an example, but it actually is one. Wasn't planning this at all, guys. But he just did some horrible things. Like he went to Japan and went to like a suicide forest and was like filming it and like laughing at the guy, and actually showed the guy hanging and thought it was like a funny thing, and then like did this like very fake apology and acted like he changed, and then did like a huge crypto scam, and everything's, yeah. So he's just a really, really like horrible narcissistic person. But so like that's like the low energy of that, right? It's like people can think, because sometimes people with that, now people might get mad at me for saying this. I'm not saying new moon people are living their life on easy mode, but for some it can feel like that at times. It's like obviously depending on the whole chart, and then they can start to think like, oh, like I'm just better than people. So yeah, there can definitely be some immaturity. Okay. So where did my thing go? Okay, so next is Crescent. So Crescent people are, there's more of, how do you say this? Like that need to kind of overcome certain older attitudes and standards. So some people with this can be very emotionally tied to the past, and kind of that desire to stay within the comfort zone can be very high. It sounds kind of like low vibe Taurus, right? Just like the fear of change. So yeah, they can find it quite difficult to move into the world, and so it's really important for them to find that independence within them, and to know, because it is still a youthful energy, right? So to just know that first step, like that is the hardest. So yeah, it's really a lot about moving forward and kind of activating, almost like lower, I want to say third chakra, I can do it type energy. But then you could also argue about the root chakra, and security. So, yeah. So, oh God, my computer's being so slow. I'm sorry, guys. So then there is first quarter. Am I going to have to pause this to go downstairs? No. Okay, so first quarter is very much about, so there's that theme of action, and building is still, it becomes very, very, very big, right? And basically there's a lot of energy there, right? It's a square. So it's a square between sun and moon. I have this, but on the other side, right? So there's more of a dynamism because of these energies. Also, if they are sun square moon, a lot of times that can be a divorce with the parents, where there's just a very different psychological energy from one part of the psyche, the feminine to the masculine. So there can be different crises with people born in the first quarter moon, and their challenge is to sort of figure out how to deal with that, right? How to build a life and move forward in a way where, where they can rely on themselves and kind of create the life that's based on their own authentic selves. So yeah, it can be a very road less traveled, unconventional type of life path. And, obviously with that energy, it's important not to create a lot of chaos in the life, because it can definitely happen. And I would say, in my experience, that there is that tendency for conflict, in some way, right? Especially if they're following some type of status quo, or really engaged in following who they are supposed to be and all that. Yeah, but there can be a very intense energy with this one, right? Almost like thrill seeking. 3 minutes. Okay. So So next is Gibbous. Should I pause? No, whatever. Okay, so people born on Gibbous. So obviously, we're approaching, one away from the full moon. And the full moon is at that degree. It's like not to skip ahead, but just so you know, the gibbous would be the 45 degrees up until the full moon. But if you're born, like let's say you're born right before a full moon, like I still count that as being born on a full moon, right? Like maybe using an orb of 10 degrees or so, 8 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees, even 12, I don't know. It's everyone's different, we're intuitive. So, yeah, so gibbous is very much about perfection, right? As I spoke about earlier with, comparing it to the plants. And, it's very sharp, very analytical. There's that need to understand the world, right? From all different angles and, to really find the truth, essentially. So, basically, it can create very philosophical people who, want to know the answer to the big questions, right? Answers to the big questions. And there's just that love for learning and making sense of reality and the world. So, like I said before, there can be that that energy of perfectionism and so I should probably pause it here, although he might be stuck in traffic. Whatever, we'll keep going. So okay, full moon. 220 full. Okay, so obviously a full moon is all about completion, as I said, right? So, because of how much light, there can be a lot of illumination, but also if it's sun opposite moon, right, especially if it's a very tight angle, that can be similar to the sun square moon with respect to parents being divorced or just having very different ideas. So it can be, people can really, grow into this energy when they're born on this. But it's, from a karmic perspective, there's a lot to do with completions, hard work, completions a lot of times of hard work from different incarnations. And it's, really, there can be this, what's the word? Almost like this feeling of like, I need to make it happen this time, right? This urgency. So, there can be definitely some idealism, but I think that they, because of the opposition, it can make relationships very, very important to them. So even karmic relationships or just relationships of all sorts, balancing out a lot with respect to their karma. So really like knowing like what sign and what axis that's in for, it's very, very important. Get my guys here. So, yeah. Yeah, very important not to get caught up in being, overly emotional and this and that in a bad way. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. I'm pausing this. Okay, we are officially back. Got my ticket. Very cool. Very good. So, what was I saying? Full moon energy. Yeah, I mean, I think I said it all. Like really, also like they can. So a lot of them have, like I said, a lot of relationship karma, and because of the intensity of this and that feeling, like when you're in that completion period, right? It's almost like this sense of like, I can't mess this up, which can bring a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. In relationships, I've noticed that sometimes people, obviously it depends on the whole chart, I don't say that every reading, but they can be very sometimes harsh. And if they haven't done the work themselves, they can expect too much from that partner. They can expect that partner to be their saving grace, be their God. So it's really good for them to, find spirituality themselves and find a higher purpose, right, that relates to their whole chart and their whole being. So, so now, with the disseminating, so with the disseminating, it's a different energy, right? We're moving. We've moved past the full moon, but the sky is still very light. Now, if we think about, another huge consideration for all of these is just the sign of the sun and the moon. In many cases with disseminating, they can be sun opposite moon, or an opposite sign, so that creates that polarity. But sometimes they can be 5 signs away. If they're 5 signs away, quincunx, elemental quincunx, these are energies that don't know anything about each other, right? So if they're sextile, right, if they're 2 away, like 60 degrees away around, or 120, it's a very good relationship between sun and moon, and that tends to reflect in the psyche, and oftentimes with the parents. But anyways, that first, obviously it's more active. It can be more chaotic. It doesn't mean people who are on this side of things are are necessarily just automatically less. But yeah, so I would say with the disseminating, people born under this are very good at speaking their truth and just communicating in general. They tend to really want to spread this awareness, and it's from their own experiences, right? So it's like that idea of like understanding your experiences and wanting to, it's very Sagittarian type of feel, right? Really wanting to teach and philosophize and all that. Now, if they haven't, maybe I always use a Saturn return as reference point, like maybe by that point or around that, if they haven't really gained a lot of important things, messages, wisdom to share, it can be quite difficult. But it's very it just reminds me a lot of Sagittarius, because it's kind of like they need to know that it's not them. You can't you can bring the horse to the water, but you can't force the horse to drink it, right? And so like they can teach, they can plant seeds, but it's with this energy, they still have to be brave, and they still want their truth to be heard and to be said and all that. So but it's very, very important for them to be living in a moral manner. So next is third quarter. So third quarter. Oh, hey, Ishmi. So third quarter moon, last quarter, as we call it. Change that. Okay, so this is very much about readjustment, right? And we're talking about the crisis with that first quarter, and the first quarter, it can be more about the crisis that comes from different physical experiences. Now, this one could be more related to consciousness and spirituality and thought, right? So they can be very deeply introspective. And let me actually check something. Calculate your natal lunar phase. I just want to see. Find your which moon phase. AstroSeek. Let's see if they have it. I just want to make sure for you guys, so because I want you guys to be able to watch the video and for sure know. So let me just put mine in and see if it does it correct real quick, guys. Just a moment. Don't go anywhere. But yeah, so like we see that with all of these, it just adds another dimension. But I can't press it enough how important the signs are, right? One of the things I teach, I'm not going to reveal all the secrets, of what I teach my students. But if you're ever interested, I do one-on-one classes. I have packages of 10, 20, and 50. Even I think I have a 100 class package too. But yeah, like just going back to basics is really important, Okay, so yeah, this worked. So on AstroSeek, just search AstroSeek and natal moon phase calculator, something like that. Moon phase calculator and moon sign calculator. So yeah, it shows my moon, 21 Sagittarius, and then disseminating moon phase, waning gibbous. So that's what I am. Yeah, so, 1 second, wait. But yeah, obviously, I didn't say it before, but yeah, you have the waxing and the waning. Waxing is that first, 180, and then the waning is the second. But hold on, guys, I'm having... One sec. I'm still a bit confused. 260. Okay, yeah, so it shows the degree. But anyways, as I was saying, so with last quarter, it's part, there's that energy of endings, right? And so there can be, like I said, like the kind of crisis in consciousness, and it can be very tough, right? So people with this, there can be a lot of inner reflection, and just there can be kind of that energy of like, this can't be all there is, right? So people with this can tend to be a little bit different, just going their own direction, needing a lot of alone time, and really lots of unconscious processing, right? And so there's almost like a Neptunian energy to this one, right? So, yeah, very, very, very deep. And yeah, so then, and yeah, I feel like that one is very much about reflection, right? There's a lot of reflection and trying to kind of figure out what everything means and what everything is. So 35, 27. So yeah, so then there's Balsamic, the last one. And I should have given you guys the degrees. Maybe I will in the thumbnails. But yeah, so basically being born, so Balsamic is very interesting, right? So obviously it's 315 to 360, the last 45. And that makes, so you're in the last phase, right? So the sun, the moon is right behind the sun, right before a new moon. So it's a very karmic, so even in predictive astrology, with the progressed moon, the period where it's in the progressed moon cycle, when it's in the balsamic phase, it's super karmic time. And basically there's like that theme of meeting those where there's karmic people and circumstances where there's unfinished business with, right? So there can be a lot of intense relationships, right? There's that different than the full moon, right? Sense of needing that completion. Hey, Kitty, you got something to say about this? Esme? But yeah, so people with this, there can be a level, especially in this world, level of confusion, especially when young. And lots of, just like with most of this, this waning phase, right, or the second half, it can be a lot more internal. So it kind of brings up a lot of questions of like, what unfinished business do I have? And lots of, so there can be a very creative sort of visionary energy, a lot of potential for high intuition, but very, a lot of sensitivity, right? And I think that a lot of people with this, with this phase and just with the waning in general, and it's not just them, but there can be that energy of, how do you say, uncommon common knowledge. Someone told me about that and it stuck with me a while ago. Right, Esme? Right? And it can almost be this time where it's like, should I just shut off from the world? Like, should I just, like, are people this stupid? It's so obvious to me, but like they can't seem to understand it. But then I also do know people who born in this phase who are very brainwashed, so it's kind of interesting, right? But if you found me here in this video, my assumption is that you've reached some level of awareness, right, where you're ready to really unlock all of this, because everything is ultimately about unlocking energy, right? So yeah, people with this one, yeah, so there can be that feeling of like always like having felt different, but then trying to pretend to be normal, the black sheep types. But yeah, a lot of really special people are born under this. And there's lots of natural wisdom, but sometimes they shut that off, right? I think does my brother have this? Or is he new moon? Or full? No, he's full moon, what are we talking about? But I know I have a friend who has this, right? It's actually a friend's brother. And he was very, very wise. Like when we were all young, he was like a younger brother. I remember once he said something like, I was like all into business when I was like 17, 16, real estate. I wanted to be like the richest man in the world, you know? And he was like a 13, 14 or something. I was drunk. I remember that. Somehow he was just like with us, not drinking, but just I was at my buddy's house. And just like a deep kid, you know, he's like saying something like, you know, you can't take money to the grave with you. Like, you know, I'm just like, whatever. But, you know, but then later on, things kind of went the wrong way for him. Like, not horribly, but it almost makes me think that some of that early wise or wisdom just kind of got washed away and replaced by something else where now he's just like a lot more normal, I guess you could say. At least I don't know. I just find it interesting how people can shift like that. But yeah, like being able to kind of take from the psychic world and then apply it to the physical world, and really just deal with with the karma, right? Really deal with, especially if there's any big anything else in the chart that's like big with respect to karmic, like let's say you have a Hades moon, like Pluto moon, like conjunction or square opposition or quincunx or whatever, right? So there's usually a big commitment that the person made. So yeah. Let me look at one thing really quick before I end this. I just want to make sure that I didn't skip over anything. Okay, so yeah, I definitely I just want to make sure with the first quarter, hold on, let me add this chapter as 41, 45, just additional forgotten info on each phase. Yeah, I just want to kind of run through some things. Just run through some things and make sure I didn't leave anything important out or not emphasize something enough. But anyways, where was I? Yeah, so obviously the new moon, I think I said everything. Just that projection into the world and that spontaneous energy, and yeah, I think there can be lots of leadership too, but really, yeah, it's very Aries energy, like learning about your identity, about who you are, and yeah, like I said, a lot of actors, actresses, and creators have that spotlight energy, right? That just go energy. So then, yeah, with Crescent, and I'm gonna write down here. So, oops. So yeah, and then with the Crescent, with the 45 to 90, I feel like I said that too, right? It's just about independence and taking that step forward, and then after that, you look at the whole chart. All right, and then with the first quarter, did I say everything? That's 90 to 135. Yeah, I talked about the kind of instinctive action, the impulsivity, lots of creative ability also, right? But just the tension that the square can create, and just how one learns from their I don't want to say their mistakes, but just from what they do externally. But then there's a lot of energy with people like this, right? So they can really push themselves to to do great things, right? They can be very good leaders of people, managers. So, yeah. My lips are breaking. So then there's Gibbous, which I talked about right before the full moon, right? So that's that energy of, wanting to know, right? Moving from that more instinctual, spontaneous energy to that more conscious, asking the questions, starting to really ask the questions, right? And really wanting to grow and create value, right? Self-growth becomes important, but perhaps they might start life in a manner that's, maybe more similar. There could also be, well, it depends. I was gonna say, like, I mean, I've seen it where it's like sometimes they can be making lots of mistakes early on, very out there, being, in that waxing period still. But yeah, it's at some point like, just that always asking why and really wanting to understand. So yeah, full moon is 180 to 225, right? So, like I said, if you have it at 175, 172, like, you might as well count it as full moon and gibbous. But yeah, so I think I said everything about full moon, right? Like the psychology of the pull between the father and the mother, and people with that, I talked about the relationship element. I talked about just being pulled in two different directions, so that need, that it's very, very, there's that need for that purpose. It can be very, very hard for someone who has this, to not be aligned with an important purpose. And if they don't integrate the opposition of their two signs, especially if it's like a close, like sun moon opposition in signs that are opposite, tough. So then, yeah, and the waning, disseminating, right? I talked about that. That is actually mine. Although I'm so confused. Or I'm just like really close to third quarter. Yeah, okay. That's why I was confused. Because I'm just like, yeah, I have sun square moon, Pisces sun, Sag moon, but my Pisces sun's 28, my Sag moon's 21. So I'm basically last quarter. So, but like that would be like a very tough one where I'd be like, where I would probably like look at both, honestly. But yeah, let me just write this down. But yeah, so as I said, disseminating, right? It really is the spreading of information, right? And that elevated consciousness, and yeah, kind of like everything I said about like how Sagittarian it is, right? Of how people with with this, and I can totally relate, right? Where it's like, especially if you have Sagittarius energy, where there's that feeling of like wanting to spread that wisdom that you've gained, but then, and you have that dynamism too, right? But then, yeah, like I said, you can bring a horse to the water, you can't force the horse to drink it, and you can get sometimes people with this, they can just like go into hiding because they're just like, this world just doesn't get me. So last quarter, which is 270 to 315. Like I said everything about that one, right? I said a lot about that, just the crisis in consciousness and, kind of turning away from the past or what has been, and, kind of really starting to turn the page on like a consciousness level, especially as it relates to the status quo and blah, 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 blah. I'm not gonna repeat myself. I feel like I said everything very well for this one. But yeah, it's really like a lot about kind of transformation on that philosophical level as well. And yeah, and then but balsamic, I feel like I said everything, right? I'm not gonna even go into that one. I talked a lot about that one. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this one. This is a bit of a different type of video. I don't know, Esma's been making a little cameo. Nice. Yeah, so let me know what moon phase you're in. Maybe do a little reflecting on it. And yeah, I'm curious to know what you think in the comments. And yeah, just how everything relates to your life, to your experiences. There's a lot more I could say, but I'm just gonna leave it there. So thank you guys so much. And me and Esme, I can't move this camera for because it'll break the microphone connection. The computer. Me and Esme are out of here. Ciao.